All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dan Federico Show. The third time you guys are seeing me just this week. Been a busy week, but this time I have obsessed sports writer, OUA writer Nick TAZZEO, and my co-host for when we call all the sports in Hamilton, the Hamilton Hurricanes, and now Hamilton High School football. My color commentator Nick TAZZEO. Nick, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm excited. I'm awesome. This is the best time of the year. Obviously, we've always discussed football weather and fall being the perfect football season, and then now we're getting into the nitty gritty with conference championships and U Sports. So you got NFL, college football.
Mhm.
It's a great time to be a sports fan. Maybe not a Blue Jay fan.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, you could say it's a great time to be a Blue Jay fan. How far they
Depends on
went.
how you look at
Yeah,
it.
it depends on how you look at it, what
Yeah.
positives you take away. But yeah, it is the greatest time, and especially this weekend, this Saturday is going to be one of the most electrifying. It's the most electrifying time of the season. It's conference championships, and today in this episode, we're going to be discussing all the conference championships around U Sports. And the one thing we'll talk about it later though, the Canada West and why it's such a big weekend for Saskatchewan. Why it's such a big weekend. They have the Rough Riders in the West Final. They have the Hilltops in the CJFL All Canadian Bowl, and then they got the University of Saskatchewan in their conference championship. But we'll talk about that later on too. But first, we're going to start off out in the AU West. St. FX at St. Mary's
Yeah.
for the Loney Bowl, for the Loney Cup or Loney Bowl. Yeah,
Yeah. So let's get the ugly one out of the way first.
yeah. The AUS conference. First St. FX, great quarterback they have over there.
Yeah, Silas Fagnan is he broke a bunch of school records this year. I believe he's the school's all-time passer,
Yep.
which is it's a great honor to bestow upon any quarterback. And Fagnan came back for his fifth year, I believe. So he's played a lot of football out east. And when you look at Saint FX, like as of late, they have dominated the Loney Bowl. They won their last Loney Bowl title was in 2023 and they have won 16 total titles.
Damn.
Now, yeah, they've won a lot of championships, but that pales in comparison to St. Mary's, who has won eight more. They got 24. And St. Mary's also has more national success. They won back-to-back Vanier Cups in the early 2000s behind the coaching of Blake Nill, who is now the head coach at the University of British Columbia. And St. FX only has one Vanier Cup to their name. And if I could just get my handy dandy guide here
The
that
guy, the notes.
my guide, yeah, I got a lot. It's just like everything is strewn about here. But Saint FX, they've been established since 1954. They've won Vanier Cup 1966. And like I said, they've had the most recent success in AUS up until late. This game is weird. And it's weird because, you know, kind of like the Yates Cup, you have a team in that game that you kind of envision them being there, which is Saint FX. And then a team that you maybe didn't see being there in St. Mary's. Bishops
And
won.
but what a season St. Mary's had.
Absolutely. So they've gone 7-1 for the folks at home. St. Mary's has gone 7-1, and they have also been the country's best pass defense team. So they only allow 180 and a half yards per game through the air, which is, that's the lowest mark in all of Canada. Guess who was the second lowest mark? St. FX.
Okay, so we're gonna have a very defensive, pass defensive game here, and but that comes good for St. Mary's though, leading the nation at that, coming against a great quarterback that St. FX has.
Yeah, and another thing about St. Mary's too is they can run the football. So they rush for 175.4 yards per game, which is it's quite a decent mark, seeing as though the Laurier, who also either the only team to be unbeaten this year, they average 191.6 yards per game. So St. Mary's is up there. They can run the ball. They play really good defense. But St. FX is also good at stopping the run. They only allow 119.8 yards per game on the ground. But they don't score a lot of points in general. Saint FX, they can't really get the ball moving on offense. They're pretty serviceable on defense. Like you said, they're led by a really good quarterback. So if Saint FX is going to win this game, it's going to be because of Silas Fagnan. Do I see them winning this game? No, I
No,
don't. I don't.
because
I
they
see
have
Saint
had
a
a
great.
rocky couple of weeks too. This earlier in the season, Saint FX. You know, they
Yeah, so they
what did they finish with? 5-3.
Yeah, so they won 5-3 this year. And interestingly enough, St. FX has played St. Mary's already this year.
Mhm.
Um, they've lost to St. Mary's 26-10. That was back on October 24th. And they've also they have prior history last year with these same sort of regimes. So they're familiar with each other. It's going to be ugly. It's not going to be like the greatest game to watch, in my opinion.
It's
But
going to be a big defensive matchup you're projecting here.
yeah, I will say so. The teams are gonna run the ball. You're gonna see St. Mary's try to get their running game established early on, and then it's gonna be up to St. FX, in particular Fagnan, to get going if their defense does not hold up.
I really respect that. I think it's going to be a close game. I think that's more of the lesser. That's gonna be one of the more lesser watched conference championships this weekend. I expect the AUS really has never really shocked me or any way of being the best of the best talent in Canada. You know what I mean? It's usually I'd say the comparison is like the MAC conference in the NCAA, the AUS.
Yeah, it's definitely the weakest conference in all of Canada. One other thing that I forgot to bring up about Saint FX, which is another big reason for why I think they will lose this game, is that in the semifinal they beat Bishops by 2 points, 26-24. Now, depending on how you look at that, you look at that as a positive by winning a one-score game, or you look at it as playing down to your competition. But Saint FX also lost to Mount Allison this year, 24-20. That was back on October 11th. Do you know Mount Allison's record this year, Daniel?
I don't think they won a single game.
They were a league worst 1-7.
1-7. All right, yeah, that'll do it. Oh yeah,
So
they didn't win a single game. What am I talking about? Yeah, 1-7. Yeah.
they, if Saint FX lost to a team like Mount Allison, keep in mind there's only 7 or 8 games that are played depending on the conference's size. And they only came off a very close win against Bishop. St. Mary's, on the other hand, blows out Acadia 37-0 in the semifinal. There's not really a reason for me to pick Saint FX unless it is due to the belief that I might have, or the viewer, depending on who's watching, that they might have in Fagin. So
Well, he is one of the best AUS quarterbacks, and he is the best State of X quarterback of all time. But St. Mary's, they have been the more consistent team over the year. Yes, they have one loss on the year, but they have been the more consistent team through the eight weeks. And yes, they blow out teams.
yeah,
And they don't like St. FX. They play down to their competition, like you said. St. Mary's does not play down their own competition. If they're better than you, they're going to beat you in all three aspects of the game: special teams, defense, and offense. They're just going to absolutely destroy you in all aspects of the football game. And I think what I'm thinking here, St. Mary's, I don't, it's it might be a close game, but I think if the St. Mary's offense gets the run game established early on and open up that passing game, they're going to break away this game. They're going to break out of it.
yeah, it says something when you got a team like St. Mary's that can score 34 points a game and then also, you know, give up the least amount of yards through the air on defense. So, like you said, Daniel, like they're tremendous in all three facets of the game. And they were surprised this year because, the AUS doesn't get a lot of national attention, or really, to be honest, U Sport doesn't get a lot of national attention in general, but the AUS, when you're talking about U Sport, you're generally not bringing up that league out east. So
Yeah, no, 100%. You're
it's
correct. And the
it,
AUS is that's what I'm saying. A lot of and you don't see really that many draft picks come from the AUS conference,
no,
and the Canadian League and the Canadian Football League, just like the other conferences, like the OUA. In my opinion, that's the best conference in Canada. The
I
OUA,
agree with you.
or the REA, or the Quebec League.
Yeah, it's I think the proof is just in the pudding with these two teams here. This might be the easiest pick. I think actually definitely this is the easiest pick for me out of all four of the conference championship games. But yeah, St. Mary's came in as a bit of a surprise. People expected Bishops to kind of lap around the league, and then St. Mary's comes in, and then they started winning and then winning and winning, and they started to draw some attention. Myself, that obsessed whenever we would do our top 15, I always gave St. Mary's the benefit of the doubt by putting them in the top 10. And then I would get some flack for it from some readers and all that. But it's like, I'm look they're winning. I can't knock them for
Yeah,
winning.
you can't look the other way when a team is winning, and especially in the dominant fashion they're doing in their own conference. You have to rank them.
Yeah, and especially if Bishops is losing the way that they
Yeah.
are. Bishops lost to Mount Allison this year. So Mount Allison's one win did come against last year's league champion. So that just shows you how crazy the AUS can get in general. But if you're going to ask me to seal the deal, I'm going St. Mary's easy.
St. Mary's is Nick Tazzio's pick for the Lonely Bull. But also got to ask you this: what was the highest you ranked St. Mary's this year?
I actually ranked St. Mary's, geez, it was sixth, fifth or sixth at one point.
See, and I think that's pretty respectable, especially the conference they come from. And but how they've been winning games too has been in perfect, almost perfect fashion.
Yeah.
They're not really a big turnover team.
No,
It's
they have multiple wins of 25, 30 plus points.
yeah,
And if they're stringing those together week after week after week, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, because there is situational games where you could be winning big against inferior competition, but there's always spots to get let down, or there's
yeah.
always spots to have a trap game. But they kept rolling,
And you
and
can see that you can see that in the AOS a lot of trap games. Like look at Saint FX's year, and it's gone for them. They thought they were gonna they're gonna go and play against Mount Allison. They thought it was going to be simple. They thought it was going to be easy. They played down to the competition, ended up losing. Like
yeah,
that's see, like you can't be. I don't know what it comes. I don't know if they had a lot of injuries or not. But when you lose to the league, to probably the country's worst, probably one of the country's worst programs this year, that's got to say something about that locker room over there. And and if you're going to be the favorites to win the AUS coming in the offseason, coming into the season, and you end the year 5-3, and now you don't even get a home bowl game, that's tough right there. And
yeah,
then I just don't see a way that St. FX wins this game at all either. It's going to be a St. Mary's, and I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be close at times, but. I think when that second quarter comes around, halfway through that second quarter, I think St. Mary's going to break it out.
I don't think it will take them long to establish their run game or what they need to do in order to get in the rhythm to win this game. Mount Allison, there's only two teams that have so no one went winless this year, but there were only two teams nationally that only won one game, and those are Mount Allison and Alberta. And Alberta
Yeah.
also has a new head coach.
Yeah, and they're a
Um,
rebuilding program. Yeah.
yeah, Mount Allison has only scored 75 points this whole year. That's tragic.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's bad.
So that's not a good sign at all.
And then like when St. Mary's played Mount Allison, they completely destroyed them.
Yeah,
Like 41 points on Mount Allison's head top.
yeah. It
Things
was
that it was just, and then St. FX plays them a week or 2 weeks later. Actually, yeah, a week later. I'm looking at it right now. 24-20. Like, how is that game supposed to be close? Like how like that should have been if you're coming in, like I said, favorites coming in the offseason. That was the game circled in your calendar and going, we're winning this game no matter what. And we're winning this game if we put our backups in. Like, yeah, that's a little cocky, but that's just how good your program is supposed to be.
yeah, and given that they've been the standard bearers of this league for the last couple of years, it's pretty inexcusable for them to lose to 1-7 Mount Allison, and you know they they beat Bishops 26 to 24. That doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in me. They're barely scraping by. in their wins. They actually lost to St. Mary's quite recently too. Back on October 24th, St. Mary's beat them 26-10. So that's still
Yeah.
like a recent loss that's sticking in their mind. I don't I really don't see much of a chance for Saint FX to win it. But like I said earlier, if they do, I think it's going to be because of the veteran experience that Fagnan has and that he's
Yeah,
able to
yeah, he
display.
brings it all together, brings it back. Because
Yeah,
St. Mary's, they've only given up 69 total points in the first in the 8 weeks of the season.
yeah,
Um, that's crazy. While St. FX has been close, but they're lucky. Like Bishop's finished third in the division. When St. Mary's played Bishops, it was not even close. They put 50 points on Bishops. St.
yeah,
Mary's. Saint
yeah.
FX was Saint FX struggled a little bit with them too, with Bishops. And am I right on that? I'm pretty sure I'm right on that.
Um,
I'm pretty sure.
well, they struggled with Bishops in the playoffs, but they lost to Bishops 29-3 back in September.
Yeah, so yeah, they did struggle with them a lot.
Yeah, but
And
Bishops was weird this year. Bishops was never consistent, so
they were
Bishops,
an up and down. They were an up and down team. But when you have St. Mary's just absolutely taking away
yeah.
the competition this year, um, that's pretty tough. And St. Mary's lost their first game of the season
Yeah, St. Mary's did lose their
to
first game.
St. FX in the first week
Yes.
of the season. So that was like that's when everyone was like, St. FX, they're going to be the top dogs again. It's probably going to be the 1-2 punch with those two. Um, but that was in August. I don't know if that was
That was the preseason
yeah, that
game.
was the preseason. I don't know
They
if that was
lost to
the
them in week 4, 20-17.
yeah.
So, you know, I the Bishops win, if you're looking at it from St. FX's perspective, the Bishops win is kind of an anomaly where they beat Bishops back in September. Bishops is flip-floppy, but they do have one of the league's I don't know if he's returning, but they had one of the league's most consistent quarterbacks in Justin Curion. So he was always a staple of Bishops's offensive success, and he was able to kind of will those games, bend them into his favor. And I it's going to take that sort of mentality from Fagnan to win this game.
I agree with that. But it seems like he plays his best game when he plays against St. Mary's. It
Mhm.
seemed like this year he's been playing a pretty proper game. He's seen St. Mary's a couple times this year, and he has played pretty good preseason. Got his ball rolling early on. Then they played against each other in September. They beat St. Mary's in September. I think he plays his best game when it comes to St. Mary's, and I think he's that's the type of quarterback play they're gonna need this Saturday.
Yeah, and he's been in this position before playing this game. So who knows? Maybe he channels a little bit of that past experience. Like he's won a few Loney Bowls before. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, let's see how it goes on Saturday in the Loney Bowl. So St. Mary's, we're picking St. Mary's here. This podcast is picking St. Mary's.
picking St. Mary's.
I really respect that. I really like that, and I think that's the right pick. But wait, so I don't want to talk about the OUA just yet. Then
Okay.
we'll say that for a little bit. We'll talk. We're gonna go in and we're gonna talk about the Canada West, the
Kansas
88th
West.
BioSteel Hardy Cup. So we got Regina versus Saskatchewan at Saskatchewan. That's
Hmm.
could be a pretty good game. Scat 7-1. Regina 6-2. Nick, talk about that game a little bit.
Yeah, this game is going to be fun. If you have some time, 2 o'clock Saturday, and you want to tune into this game is going to be a good time. 7-1 Saskatchewan against 6-2 Regina. Saskatchewan, I believe they've been without their starting quarterback Anton Amundrud for a little bit.
Yeah, and
Um,
he still led the league in passing touchdowns. Still
yeah,
led
so
the conference.
he's a really good quarterback, and he's someone that will be missed. But they do have, arguably, depending on which way you look at it, maybe also where you live, they do have the league's best receiver, maybe even the country's best receiver in Daniel Weeb. This guy can flat out ball, right? Regina, on the other hand, they're led by their rushing attack, which is headed by Marshall Erickson. And Marshall Erickson, if I could just grab it here, let's see. Marshall Erickson was second in the country for rushing yards, I believe. I don't have it near me, but he was great this year. And they're both of these teams can affect you from all around the field, both passing and through the run. For example, um, Saskatchewan, they throw for 286 yards per game. That's good for 11th nationally. Regina, 250, good for 14th. If you look at total offense, Saskatchewan is ninth. They put up 435 yards per game. Um, Rushing wise, Regina's got the upper hand behind Marshall Erickson. He set a few program records this year. Um, and then in terms of defense, this is where the difference will undoubtedly lie. So Regina gives up the least amount of rushing yards in the entire country. They only give up 86 yards per game on the ground.
That's good. There you go.
That's insane. So
What does that what does that rank within the country?
number one, I
Yeah,
believe.
see, first in the country. There we go. And Canada West is a pretty good. If I wouldn't say, I'm going to say pretty good. I'd say great conference. That's a tough conference, and it's getting
Yeah.
better each year. That Canada West conference. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I got the Marshall Erickson numbers here. So he's a 1,000 yard rusher this year. So 11
Wow.
touchdowns,
Wow. In
128
eight
yards per
games.
game. Pardon me.
In 8 games.
Yeah,
That's tremendous.
yeah. He's second in the country behind obviously Ethan Dolby at Western, who
Yeah,
just
yeah,
ran
yeah.
wild. Um, but yeah, it, when you look at this game here, it's probably going to come down to the defense. And like you said about Canada West being a tough conference, it is tough. I would just describe it as spontaneous.
I
So
like that.
anything can
I
happen.
really like that.
Anything can happen. I've heard this from like sources of mine too. Like there's a nickname for it among coaches. It's called the Wild West because anything can always happen. Um, Manitoba last year they went 7-1 and then they made it to the Hardy Cup. They lost. They were heavy favorites.
Yeah,
This year coming in, everyone expects them to kind of revamp. They bring back the Canada West MVP and quarterback Jackson Tuchinski.
yeah.
And then what happens to Manitoba this year? They 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 kind of fizzle out. They only
Yeah,
go
weren't they like a 500 team? A 4 and
yeah,
4 team?
they only go 4-4 and they lose to Regina, they lose to Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is one of those teams that people look at, they expect them to be there. Regina, on the other hand, not really, because last year they beat Manitoba in the Hardy Cup during the regular season last year. They were one of the league's worst teams. I believe they were 3-5.
Okay.
And then this year they go 6-2
hmm
and it's them and Saskatchewan all the way until the end. And
Saskatchewan's been very good though for the past couple of years.
yes, they have. Saskatchewan has been very, very good for the past couple of years. They actually have had a lot of success winning Hardy Cups in general.
Yeah.
They've won excuse me, they've won 22, I think.
That has to be the most obviously that has to be the most, right? In the Canada West. 22.
It's
Because this
either
is the 88 Hardy Cup. This has to somewhere around there has to be, right?
excuse me, so they won 21, yeah, 88 Hardy Cups. They've won 21 of them.
Okay.
Saskatchewan has also one thing about them is they had extremely good Vanier Cup success in the 90s. They won all three of their Vanier Cups in the 90s, 1990, 96, and then 98. They were last in this game back in 2022. So yeah, Saskatchewan has had a lot of national success. Regina, on the other hand, no Vanier Cups. They've only been in the game one time. That was back in 2000. They've only won two Hardy Cups. And Regina is they're a new team. They've only been a
Yeah.
youth sports team since 1999, and that was because they used to be in the CJFL.
Oh, right. Really?
Yeah. So the Regina Rams used to be a CJFL team that played, with the Saskatoon Hilltops and stuff like that. And then I don't
Okay.
know why or how, but they got promoted to being the University of Regina's
See,
football.
that's unheard of. I didn't even know that. That's actually spectacular on that program. So they're a young program.
Yeah.
Well, not young anymore, but they're a young program, I would say, because all these teams have probably been in the Canada West and U Sports for a long time. But you know what team I really want them to bring back Canada West? Is
Hmm.
Simon Fraser.
Yeah, Simon Fraser had some ballers back in the day.
Yeah,
Simon Fraser
especially they,
did.
they should have never gone D2. That's a
No.
conversation. That's a conversation for another time. But yeah,
Yeah.
like this Canada West Conference, I didn't even know Regina. I didn't even know they were in the Canadian Junior Football League and then brought back. So when did they come into the Canada West? The early 90s or late
1999.
so 1999, late 90s. They came in and yeah, so they're still a building program.
You
It's
could
been
say
around
that, yeah.
26 years, and that's spectacular though, that they're back and you know finally trying to get some success going for them. That's actually great that they're here. But they did finish the last week of the regular season on a loss, Regina.
Yes, they did. So Regina in the last week of the regular season lost to UBC 31-29 in OT. And UBC wasn't really competitive, but they had a tough defense.
Yeah.
Still not the result you want to head into a conference championship game on. Regina has also played Saskatchewan this year, and that was a loss back in week 4. It was a close one. Saskatchewan only beat them 22-20, and they are coming off 2 back-to-back victories, beating Manitoba 31-12 on October 25th, and then UBC 24-10 back on the 17th. So if you're looking at the record, the stats, it will indicate that Saskatchewan might be the team that you want to pick, especially if you're kind of thinking about what can come next in
Yeah.
terms of a program's trajectory. But Regina, that defense is good, and their running back is fantastic. Marshall Erickson is he lights up the TV or your phone, whatever you're watching it on. Marshall Erickson is a guy that
So
you
he's
want.
your key player to look out for, I'm gonna say. Has,
Yeah,
has to be.
well, if you're giving, yeah, if you're asking me to pick a key player for both teams, yeah, it would probably be him. But it would either be him or Daniel Weeb, and then Weeb is the star receiver
Yeah.
for Saskatchewan. He
Probably
had a
the best receiver in this Canada West Conference.
Without a doubt. So if
Yeah.
I can read you some of his numbers right here. Through 8 games, he caught 60 balls, 926 yards, averaged 115 receiving yards per game, 11 touchdowns. That's more touchdowns than Ethan Jordan for Laurier as well. And Ethan Jordan
And
is the
he and
name.
he's like a top Canadian Football League prospect right now.
Oh,
Ethan
which
Jordan.
one? Sorry.
Ethan Jordan.
Yes, yes. And if he's not, he should be.
Yeah.
But yeah, Daniel Weeb is a big time player for Saskatchewan. Um, if Amundred was playing this game at quarterback, this would be an easy pick for Saskatchewan for me. But man, as of right now, it's I'm still going to pick Saskatchewan, but
Yeah.
it's not going to be as confidently as it would have been.
I like that a lot. I just think that Regina has something to prove, and they have something to prove on this Saturday. I'm gonna go Regina on this one. But Saskatchewan is home. They are at home, and something in the air on the Saskatchewan. That's Saturday. Something's gonna be in the air, and because you got the Rough Riders playing at night in the West Final in the Canadian Football League Grey Cup playoffs. And then you got Saskatchewan. You know what? I'm actually changing. I'm picking Saskatchewan. Something is in that air in
Hmm.
Saskatchewan that day, and it's going to be a winning feeling. If they can set the tempo and win the Hardy Cup, I think Saskatchewan's going to go. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are going to go and win the West Final, beat the BC Lions, and go to the Grey Cup. And yeah, let's go Saskatchewan in the Hardy Cup.
Yeah, I'm backing you there, Saskatchewan. And if Saskatchewan, um, their national like their capabilities to contend for a Vanier Cup doesn't end here. If they win this game, um, I wouldn't I wouldn't really bet against them necessarily, just because of the firepower that they do have. Riker Frank, their running back, is another really good player. He's someone that generally goes overlooked in Canada West running backs because of the likes of Marshall Erickson for Regina. But yeah, I'm absolutely sticking with Saskatchewan here.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And the Saskatchewan's quarterback has only played what 4 games now for them this season. Started 4 games
Played
with
5 games. So
and he
Amundsen has
has
played 5 games this year.
okay. And how is he? Yeah, so he's played in 5 games, and how has he been doing in the 5 games?
So through 5 games, he's completed 69% of his passes, 1,600 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He's pretty efficient.
That's very efficient actually. That's fantastic.
He's pretty efficient. He averages nearly 330 yards per game passing. Now it is only 5 games that he's played as compared to the 8 that most other
Yeah,
quarterbacks have, but
yeah.
he's been a constant in their offense, and him and the rest of the big three and Weeb and Frank they've been getting the job done for for numerous seasons now in Saskatchewan. Now it's just time for them to put it all together and win the Hardy Cup this year.
And I think they can do it. They're going to be the team to look out for. Tough conference, making it out of this conference is sets you up for some success. I don't know who does the winner play. Would it be the AU? Would be the OUA this year, right? The winner of the Canada West Conference, the Hardy Cup, plays against the winner of the Yates, right? I'm pretty sure that's how it lines up.
I'm actually not quite sure about that,
But
but
yeah, I think it will be. Or I'm gonna go with my gut here and say it is Canada West first OUA. So that's gonna be another tough matchup. That's gonna be another tough
yeah.
test for whatever team comes out of the Canada West. And it's going to be a good test for whatever team comes out of the OUA, Queens or Laurier. And that's going to be the next game we're going to go and talk about. We're going to be talking about the OUA, the Yates Cup, Queens, Laurier. I got the Queens in this one, but I know deep down it's going to be Laurier because they're the best team in the country without transfer Wither.
Yeah, I'm going Laurier. I I think the writing's on the wall for them. I think they're the team of destiny. They're my Vanier Cup pick as well. It's insane that you swap out one quarterback in Taylor Elgersma, who was on the NFL's Green Bay Packers roster for a few months, and you swap him out for another all-time great Laurier quarterback in Callum
Yeah.
Wither.
And they get
Oh,
Ohio transfer and Withers.
yep.
They didn't skip a beat this year. I'm pretty sure he went like 26 and I think 26 touchdowns and like 4 interceptions this year with 2,000 passing yards. This offense in Laurier did not skip a damn beat, and they look so scary. And they're lucky that Guelph knocked out Western because I wanted to see that matchup again because they played against each other earlier in the year. But I really wanted to see that matchup in the Yates Cup. But we got Queens versus Laurier, and I'm okay with that. I'm a Queens guy.
Mhm.
It's a Queens household over here. But Laurier is the team to beat, and they are for sure the favorites to win the Vanier Cup, and I think they will get it done because I don't see anybody stopping this transfer quarterback and this Laurier offense and their defense too has been spectacular.
Yeah, their defense has been awesome. They only give up 117 yards on the run. Through the air, they're a little more suspect, giving up nearly 300 yards through the air, so that's not good. But their pass rush is amazing, and they've been getting after quarterbacks, pressuring quarterbacks consistently. Um, I don't think it's as good as the Queen's pass rush. I've believed since the beginning of the year that the Queen's pass rush is something insane. You have Oliver Jackson, Eli Bennett, those guys can get it done. I've watched I think 2 Queens games live this year, and I couldn't take my eyes off the defensive line. So that's one factor for Queens that could help lead them to victory. Uh, I think it just comes to talent. It comes down to talent with this game, and I don't think Queens has as much as Laurier does. I
No, 100%. There's a lot of talent for sure going to be on display in Kitchener this weekend. In Kitchener Waterloo this weekend, there's going to be a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, and I think Laurier does have the upper hand on talent. Obviously, when you bring Ohio an NCAA transfer in, just that's perfect replacement for Taylor Elgersma, who's went to the National Football League, was had a training camp with the Green Bay Packers. Most likely going to try and see if he can stick on another roster in the offseason, or he's going to come and play in the Canadian Football League and probably be the quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Barns, depending on what that situation is going on with Zach Collaros. Had an episode actually about the CFL last night, so you guys should go watch that. But yeah, like the great replacement for Taylor Egersma is Withers, and having what did he average this year? 300 yards per game, damn near.
310 yards per game.
Like wow, and
Yeah.
he didn't have easy competition because that Guelph team is great. Well, it wasn't great, but it was good at times.
Yeah. They
That
lost, they beat Guelph by 3 points. No, 4 points in week one in Guelph. So I was at that game. They beat Guelph twice this year, but both games have been by less than 10 points.
Yeah, because they just played. The last time they played Guelph too was the week before playoffs, right?
No, they actually played them in the
Oh, they played him last week. They played him last week. Yeah,
yeah,
they played him last
37
week.
to 30.
Yeah, 37-30. Yeah, actually, yeah, because I wasn't paying attention. I was not watching the game, but I keep up with the game because the quarterback there that got thrown into the game, Marshall McCray,
Hmm.
almost brought them back. Almost made a comeback there, but it obviously fell short. But the games that he's played the best in is against the weaker teams. I think this year Withers has played. Um, Waterloo, the Warriors were not a good team this year.
No.
The Ottawa GGs weren't good. He threw for 8 touchdown passes in just those back-to-back weeks, like 4 and 4. For a total of 8 touchdowns in 2 weeks against probably one of the country's worst defenses in the OUA. I'd say OUA's worst defenses. Spectacular play though, nonetheless, because then he came and absolutely destroyed Western, and he
Hmm.
took this game was personal. It felt like to him. I was what was it October 18th or something like that, and he made
Yeah.
it personal with what I saw 5 touchdown passes, almost 400 yards through the air. This guy and they destroyed Western that day. And I was a little shocked at seeing that score line of like 60-13. That was tremendous. And this quarterback right here, I don't know how many years of eligibility he has left, but Laurier is going. No one's going to stop this Laurier offense.
I don't think that many will be able to stop this Lorry offense. If there is a team that could, it's likely that of Laval or Montreal, one of the teams out in Quebec. I believe it's Laval. Um, but I think they have too much talent, and that's really it. They have they average the most total offense per game, 509 yards per game in terms
Oh
of
yeah, they'll
rushing
do it.
and
They'll do
passing.
it.
Yeah.
They'll do
Oh
it.
yeah.
They'll do it. That's how you win it. That's how you win a championship right there.
Yeah. In terms of all of these teams, all 8 teams that are playing in the conference championship games this weekend, Laurier passes for more yards than all of them and also rushes for more yards than all of them. They score 44 points a game. And like I said before, they have a really good rushing defense, giving up less than 120 yards per game on the ground, which certainly will be a big factor this weekend because Queens has a stud of a running back named Jared Kazari.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
he's been a great running back for them for the past couple of seasons, but it's going to be up to this Laurier front seven, the linebackers, the defensive line, the nickels, the corners who come down to help out in the running game. It's going to be up to them stopping the rushing attack because um, I believe that's the avenue that Queens will go to, unless they're going to try to exploit Laurier's pass defense. But I don't think that's smart because I don't think Laurier is the team you want to get into a shootout with.
No, because they'll end up winning that shootout with the
Yeah,
star power that they have. But I
absolutely.
do think though, like the good aspects that Queens do have is, I think Laurier is going to win this football game. Okay, Laurier is going to win this football game. I don't say bet the house on because I've seen crazier things happen in the OUA. Didn't think Guelph was going to beat Western off of a ruse. Did not even think they were going to win the game or be close to get to that chance. She's seen crazier things already in this playoffs. But Laurier is great. Queens defensive line has been great for years. When I started paying attention to Queens, because obvious reasons, his aunt played on that. My brother played on that team. Even the years before that, their defensive line, it has been like a staple in Queens that their defensive line has been the biggest part of their obviously, rightfully so. But
Mhm.
each year they do a great job on recruiting that, and recruiting on that defensive line. But let's see how this defensive line can do. Can they cause problems? They have to put pressure on a quarterback like this, and you have to put it in his face. But do I think they can do it? No, because I think the Laurier offensive line is up for the task.
Yeah, and Laurie's offensive line returned all but two starters from last year's team as well. So they're proven. They've played in a lot of big games before. They've won the Yates Cup. I mean, uh, back-to-back Yates Cups at home that they've hosted. That's something that's, if you're playing in those games, if you play in just one of those games, it certainly sets you up better for the next time that you do. So I think just in terms of talent, big game experience, obviously the acquisition of Wither in the offseason by stealing him away from the MAC Conference's Ohio Bobcats, I think that I think that they've Laurier at the end of last year, when the clock hit 0-0-0 and Laval won the Vanier Cup, that's when head coach Michael Faltz looked around and he's like, I'm not gonna let this happen again. And our goal is to win the whole damn thing next year. And it's been the proof has been in the pudding in the offseason. Look at the way they recruited and look at how they loaded up by acquiring one of the best quarterback talents on the market for them in Callum Withard. They brought back Ethan Jordan, the record breaker from last year, elevated Ryan Hughes, the ultra talented receiver, so he gets more starting reps. Tayshawn Jackson, he's like a little lightning bolt of a running back. He's one of the best returners in the country. He's also one of the most unsung running backs. They brought back Quentin Avery Scott, who hurt himself last year. 2 years ago, he's an OUA All-Star. Like, there are so much talent and so many stars on this team that it's hard for me to even pick against them. They're better than last year's team. Let me put it to you that way.
And I think that too. I totally agree with you that on that. I totally
Uh,
think that too. And I think I think it's gonna be one of the whoever comes out of Quebec, whoever comes out of the RSEQ
That's
this
the
year
big thing.
will be their biggest test. And I think the biggest test they see this year. But Queens could put off the biggest upset, and if Queens puts off the biggest upset, I'd be scared to go up against him
Up
because
against Queens.
whoever takes down whoever takes down the top dogs, they have like that's the biggest momentum you can get. I'd be
I
scared
know.
to go up against them because if you can figure out how to beat Laurier, because they did play a pretty good game early on in the year. Like it was 47 to 30 something, I want to say.
It
32.
was 47-32, but there was a late touchdown scored at the end.
Yeah, yeah, a late touchdown was yeah, that's true. Yeah. But if they can just figure out how to beat Laurier, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure if they can just figure out how to beat anybody else. But I do gotta say, the biggest test, I don't think it will actually happen, but if it does, it'd be that would be insanely awesome.
It would be insane.
But the biggest test though, and it's always like this every year because that I think the RESQ is, the toughest conference or just the best team. Those Quebec boys, man, those Quebec boys. It's gonna be either Laval or Montreal, and I think it's gonna be Laval this year. I think gonna pull away against out of the RESQ. We're gonna talk about it next, but whoever takes on Laurier, that's gonna be Laurier's biggest test, and it's just like that last year.
Yeah.
It's just like the book is just rewriting itself.
Yes. Laurier does have experience though against a Laval team that did beat them because Laval pretty well returned
Yeah,
everyone, including their quarterback, Desjardins. So they had the same system, same coach, Glenn Constantine, who has won all 12, 13 of their national championships since 1996, which is when they started playing.
yeah.
But yeah, isn't it always Laval in Montreal? Isn't it always just
Every single year it feels like that. It's like, have we ever heard of another team? Like the years that I've paid attention to the RESQ, if I'm saying that the letters correctly, I think it's always been those two teams in the finals of the in the conference championship. Like I will actually be mistaken or stunned if I am wrong. I think it was one more team the one year that I think it caught the whole world by surprise. I just forget which one it was. Um, McGill, I think it was one year. That was just shocking, like early 2000s. And
Yeah.
but I think every year from that on, it's been Montreal and Laval, Montreal and Laval. And us in Ontario, not many people watch the Quebec Conference because simply we just can't get it. You know what I mean? Like we simply look on stats or highlights, whatever on YouTube we can watch. This conference is probably the best or second best conference in Canada.
Uh, yeah, yeah. Look, what everyone needs to understand about the Quebec Conference is that they're older. They
Yes, because they have
graduate,
that CJEP, right?
yes. So they're older players. And if you're wondering why it looked like Laurier was getting just thrown around in last year's
By
Vanier Cup,
grown men.
like yeah, because they were grown, they're 23, 24 years old, whereas you have like Ryan Hughes, who was a starting receiver on the team last year for the Vanier Cup game, was 18 or 19 years old at the time. And in the
Yeah.
sport of football, age matters. If
Yeah.
you're going up against 23, 24-year-old veterans that have played the game at the highest level for longer than you have, and who play in that system that Laval has behind the head coach that they have, who's just, he turns you into a football machine. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to beat
It's yeah.
have all
It's
those things going against you.
But before we go into talk about this conference and the conference championship a little bit more, need your pick. I think we already got it. It's Laurier, right? For the OUA.
Yeah, we're going Laurier. We're going to go
Do you think it's
Laurier.
gonna be do you think it's gonna be close? I think it'll be a little bit close. I don't the reason why I think both teams are ready. I just think Steve Snyder's a great head coach. He
Yeah.
knows how to get his boys ready for big games, and he's been here before. He's been here before in his young coaching, young as a young head coach. He's been here before. He was his first or second year as head coach. He took them to Yates back-to-back Yates Cups.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I think it's just I don't think they're gonna win. I think it's gonna be Laurier, but I think he's gonna have them ready, and I think it's gonna be a closer matchup than I think people are gonna expect.
Yeah, one other thing is that I know this because I interviewed a player earlier on this year who I can't exactly name right now because of reasons with the article, but these two teams hate each other.
Oh, really?
They
We got a
hate each
rivalry
other.
matchup up in here?
It's a huge rivalry matchup. They hate each other. They hate each other. So like, okay, I was here. You want a story? I was last year, my very first game I attended at Laurier when I was invited to attend by a scout was the Queens game. And then I was there like, geez, like 2 hours early, 2 hours before kickoff. And, I'm walking around the field and I'm looking at warm-ups and stuff like that. And it's like these guys aren't even on the field for more than like 10 minutes before they start chirping. Before, you got Queens Golden Gales, they're taking off their headphones, and then all of a sudden both teams get into it at midfield. And the story of the rivalry actually comes from a few years back when I think Queens came to Waterloo, scored a touchdown, and then they did a celebration in the end zone. I don't even know what you call it, but when you lock up arms and then you do like that Irish jig thing and
Oh,
you
yeah, that's the yeah, I'll do it. That's the Queen's tradition dance.
so they did that in Laurier's end zone. And then they began to do it that day during warm-ups, which I thought was insane. And that's why they started going at it. But if you look at some of the replays from the game in Queens that they played in Kingston, Laurier was doing that in Kingston as well this year. I was at a game last year. Again, this player will remain nameless.
Yeah, I'm dominant. Yeah, yep.
But there was an injury to the Queen's punter, and it was bad. Like it was right in front of me. Like I was on the sideline. His ankle snapped. It was off the
Boy.
bone. The bone's sticking right
Oh
out.
my God. Oh,
And then he holds his leg up for all these people to see. And then one of the players who, nameless, comes on the sideline, and then you know, the usual theatrics, F this, F that, F Queens, F the Gales, and then he starts doing the thing, the Gales dance in front of all of these Queens players who are kneeling on the field for their fallen teammates. So
this is personal.
this is like the Ontario version of Alabama and Auburn, man. Like This is the Iron Bowl. This is literally it. This is gonna
I
be
actually love that. Telling that story just brings a firepower. Um, I really like that. Let's go. That's you don't really see those type of rivalries in Canada. You know what I mean? Like we have like the innocent rivalries. This is personal now for Queens and Laurier, but it's just the Queens has been on the other side recently, and for
yeah.
a long time of the Laurier matchup, and let's see what happens on Saturday. But let's go back to the RESQ, the Quebec division. So people didn't know we were talking about it a little bit before we got in our picture for the story. Um, Laval, Montreal, Laval home. Another time seeing these two in the championship.
Mhm.
Nick, let's talk about that. You want to say the cup name too? I cannot pronounce it.
Yeah, so the cup used to be the Dunsmore Cup. Now it's the Coupe Jacques Dussault.
There you go.
So
That'll do it.
Jacques Dussault Dussault Cup.
Yeah.
And for some of the viewers out there, Dussault was a legend in the Canadian football coaching ranks. First French-speaking coach to ever coach in the CFL. He coached at Acadia, Mount Allison, McGill. He was the University of Montreal, their program's first head coach because their program's relatively new, founded in 2002. Yeah, he's a legend essentially, and it's an honor that is deservedly bestowed upon him because of all that he's done for football in Quebec, and also just for French-speaking players and coaches as well, because he was the groundbreaker as the first French-speaking coach in the CFL. So yeah, the game has been renamed to the Coupe Jacques Dussault, and yeah, this year just like every other, it's Montreal and Laval. This year, though, Laval did lose a game. Breaking news, folks. Yes, Laval
Surprisingly,
lost a game.
surprisingly.
Sound the sirens, call the National Guard. Laval did lose a game. 7-1 Laval, 6-2 Montreal. And Laval's loss, interestingly enough, obviously, because this is Usports football, was to Montreal. And that was back on October 19th. Um, excuse me, back in week three, Montreal beat them 38-28. High scoring game.
Yeah.
Montreal beat them. And then Laval gets their payback on the 19th of October by beating the Carabins 16-6.
So
So
close games back to back.
yeah,
That
so
they
these
played.
two,
One was high scoring, one was low scoring. Would you expect this game to be high scoring or low scoring?
I mean, the stats indicate low scoring
Okay.
just because of who like the identities of both of these teams.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be high scoring.
All right.
And that's because of the offensive firepower that Montreal has. They have a new quarterback this year. His name is Pepe Gonzalez, and he has
What a
been,
name.
yeah, what a
What a
name.
name.
What a name. Like, and this guy he has the aura to go along with his name. So through 8 games,
Pepe Gonzalez.
66% completion percentage, 2,200 yards, 285 yards per game through the air, 19 touchdowns. He did throw 8 picks, but that came later on during the year. And then, of course, leading Laval is Arnaud Desjardins, the fifth-year senior, who is just as efficient as ever. Daniel, how would you like your quarterback to complete 75% of his passes?
Can't lose games if you complete if your completion percentage is like that.
Yeah.
Can't lose games. Can't lose much games. You're winning
No,
that means you're winning the air attack week in and week out.
he's efficient. He's one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country. The numbers represent it. He hasn't thrown for that many yards, 1,800 yards through the air. He
So does
did
that
throw
mean so does that
very,
mean a lot of it's actually check downs? Short
uh,
route passes?
say it again, sorry.
Does that mean like he's just checking down the ball, short route passes?
I think so. Like Laval also likes to run the ball a
Mm.
lot. They're like an old school, they run the football, they play good defense. They right behind Regina for the least amount of yards given up on the ground is Laval. They only give up 89 yards rushing. And they rush for 160 per games, which is much more than Montreal's 120 per game. Um, they scored 29 points a game, which is, that ranks seventh out of eight of these teams. All
Yeah.
eight of these teams, that's where Laval ranks. But they can defend the pass pretty well, 219 given up through the air. They're pretty balanced. I think Desjardins is just smart. Like he's always been smart.
Well,
If
when
you
you're a fifth-year quarterback, you have to be smart. You've seen it all, and he has seen it all in his collegiate career.
He's seen it all, and he's won multiple Vanier Cups,
Yeah.
multiple Dunsmore Cups, and
It's just been
he,
a tremendous career.
he's just used to nothing but winning.
Yeah.
He's used to nothing but winning. And Montreal, they're a new program, like I was saying. They've only been playing football since 2002, but
Yeah.
they score points, man. They got a receiver named Enrique James Leclerc. He is just awesome to watch. And Gonzalez is a great quarterback. This is going to be a really emblematic game of what could happen in the Vanier Cup, depending on who faces the winner of, we believe, the
Yeah,
OUA.
I went on to the U Sports website, and it is going to be OUA for the next for the Mitchell Bowl and the UTEC Bowl.
Yeah,
So how the conference matchups will go on the semifinals and say the country's national semifinals. OUA versus Canada West, AUS versus the RESQ. That's not even fair. You're gonna have either Laval or Montreal going up against an AUS
probably St.
school.
Mary's, probably
Yeah,
St.
St. Mary's,
Mary's.
most likely St. Mary's or St. FX. How's that even fair?
No, it's likely it's going to be. I know. Oh my gosh, man, I'm going with Laval.
I think I'm gonna go with Laval too, and I really like watching them play. I've watched them play a lot. My very first memory of watching Laval play, I was so young, was McMaster versus Laval. I believe taking place at the BC Place, the Dome in British Columbia.
Yeah, 2011,
Yeah,
2011.
2011, and that was actually that game was a tremendous game.
Yeah, that game was. It's most people would consider it the best U Sports football game ever played.
Yeah. Probably my favorite. And that's when the CFL and the Grey Cup weekend would match up with U Sports National Championship. U Sports National Championship played on Saturday.
Hmm.
Grey Cup played on Sunday.
Hmm.
They got to bring that back because that was a special weekend. That was a special football weekend. And it was just a tremendous time in Canada when you have the national championship and then you have the Vanier Cup and then you have the Grey Cup. Nothing will beat that. And then especially how it used to be on TSN.
Hmm.
Sometimes when the score was a channel. So it'd probably be like CHCH now or CBC. One of the two would. Well, CBC, I'm pretty sure is doing the band. Yeah.
Yeah, they did it last year, and I think they're
Yeah.
doing it again this year.
That was just a special moment. But that Vanier Cup, I'll never ever forget it, man. That was a tremendous game. That's probably my earliest memories of watching U Sports football. Because I didn't
Mhm.
know much about it. When I'm in a household with a bunch of football players, like my brothers, we're watching the National Football League. We're watching the CFL. We're not watching U Sports. It's not on TV. So we
Yeah.
watched that, and we had an offensive lineman, Dixon, for McMaster was on that team, and he's a family friend of this. So of course we had to watch that, and that was just a tremendous game.
It was an unbelievable game, and that's uh for Hamilton guy like me, that height is what I hope McMaster can reach again soon. But as for Laval, it's pretty impressive that that was back in 2011, and they're still here
Yeah,
competing for Mania Cups year in and year out.
because if
It's
you look at the competition of the Quebec Conference, Sherbrooke is not a good program. Has McGill, like those two teams, McGill and Sherbrooke are the bottom two teams. I would like to think all majority of the time, or Concordia sometimes switches with one of the two as being the bottom two teams. It's always
yeah.
it's always Montreal and Laval. But I do see in years to come that Concordia can build something, can build a program. Sherbrooke and McGill can too. Like McGill can too. They have history. They have a long history of this football program. Sherbrooke, I'll be totally honest. I won't even lie. I have no idea about Sherbrooke.
They're the only team in the RSCQ who have never even played in the conference championship game before. And there was only oh God, I can't think. I think them and Mount Allison are the only two teams in the entire country that have never played in a conference championship game.
Wow.
I think.
Wow.
I know Sherbrooke is for sure.
Yeah. The
I
Mount Allison. I,
100%
I
know
didn't even
that.
know about Mount Allison because I always thought they must have always been middle of the pack.
Yeah,
Middle of the
they
pack and like lesser to the pack. Like um but yeah, that is crazy. Mount Allison, man. But Sherbrooke, that makes sense. But are they like is Sherbrooke like a newer team in this country, like a newer program? Because when I was growing up, like I don't think I've ever recognized them. I recognize McGill because that's where the Alouettes play.
yeah, 2003 is when Sherbrooke was founded.
My
So,
birth year. That is crazy.
all right, here's the stat. Got it. It's not Mount Allison. So to all Mount Allison fans out there, I severely apologize for denying your
So they
university's
have been
name
good
too
in the
much.
future. All right, in the past.
But I found the other team, and that is oh man, it's gonna make a lot of sense here, Daniel.
All right.
Sherbrooke and the York Lions are the only two
Okay,
teams.
that makes a lot of sense. That makes
Yeah,
a lot of sense. The York
yeah.
Lions, though, they seem like they're building on something here.
I
Seems like
can't. I don't know what to think of. Like they made a bet on bringing in Keegan Hall from McMaster, and
I
then
liked it. I liked that bet. I liked it. Just he should have stayed at what McMaster, right?
yeah, he should have. He should have. That was exactly what I was just gonna say. He should have stayed at McMaster. McMaster ended up going 4-4 and making the playoffs. Had they
Yeah.
had Keegan Hall, who knows? They might have won a playoff game. It's a long shot, but like I don't think he made the right bet by, taking his fifth year and going to York because
Yeah.
he brought his number one receiver with him, Nicholas Adair, but all in all, they didn't end up producing like I thought they would.
At least they didn't finish last place
Yeah.
for the what was that? That must have been the first time in years. 'Cause I'm pretty sure University of Toronto came in last.
Yeah, but instead they finished second last.
Yeah,
So
there you go. That'll do it. Hey, progress. Progress.
progress, progress.
Small
And
steps, baby steps for this program because this program is known for losing. I used to have a show on my old podcast called Four Kings. It was called Four. It was part of the Four Kings network that we created when I was in high school called OUA Today. OUA Football Today. Great show name. Might bring it back for next season.
bring
Co-host.
it back.
Yeah. Um, York. I used to bash them so much on that show. Just because every time I would watch a York Line game, I was just like, this sucks. Like, I hate watching this right now. This is the worst football you can get. But then watching them this year, it's like, this is actually not bad. Now, you can tell the level of play that they played 4 or 5 years ago to today, for the last 2 years, drastically different. And they
Yeah,
brought in the new head coach, and they're doing the right thing of bringing CJFL transfers in, especially with the recruiting class. Like, they're doing a good job over there. They're doing
yeah,
a
they are.
tremendous job over there. I'm excited to see what they're doing. Waterloo needs to pick it up.
Waterloo does need to pick it up bad. 2-6. Only scored 137 total points this year.
Yeah.
Uh, they in reality, Waterloo is always going to be little brother in their own city, or at least until they start turning things around. Uh,
Because when the Ford brothers were there, I don't even. I think they were still the little brother a little bit.
yeah, they kind of were. Waterloo has just been they've gone through the ringer a few times here. Have
Yeah,
never won the Vanier Cup.
the post. They never been in a Vanier.
No, they've only won two Yates Cups. They were established in 1957, but they had
Wow,
to suspend the program in 2010 after the three players got popped for steroids.
that'll do it.
Yeah.
Actually, I
And
remember that. Yeah, the Waterloo Gate.
so that's
The steroid gate. Gotta love it.
yeah, they need to I don't know what the issue is there. I really don't know.
It could be, it's a coaching issue. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I think it's a coaching issue.
Probably. They've had the same leadership for a couple of seasons now.
Yeah,
So
and the post Ford brother era is really not off to the hottest start in the last 4 years.
no, and in U Sports too, like another thing is like coaches don't really get fired.
No, if you get fired from a U Sports, like I know McMaster. uh, what, 7 years ago, went through that little random transition when their coach did get fired.
Yeah, Greg Knox.
Yeah, that guy was just obnoxious though. I can't I can tell you stories of that guy,
He's
but I
the
can't tell you
DC at
story.
York.
What's up?
He's the DC at York now.
Okay, at least he's yeah. See, I can't even bash him. Not even allowed to. But I could always tell you. Well, because he got fired for. I'm pretty sure. What was it? He was just a loud guy on the sidelines. He was just bashing refs. There's a
Yeah.
he just could never keep his composure. It felt like
And made his presence known and
it made his
stuff.
presence known. It's like you're the head coach, you're in a leadership role. Now he's defensive coordinator. It makes sense because he's a defensive minded guy. Makes sense. They're usually the loudest.
Yeah. Um,
But when you can't keep your composure, players don't want to come play for you. That's the truth.
no,
That's
and
that's
especially
the damn truth. Like I coach high school athletes now, and I've seen a bunch of I've gone on a couple recruiting visits with my brothers and stuff like that, and I see how it's all about. And you can just see how athletes just react to coaches that are just obnoxious. I don't want.
yeah.
I'm not going to play for your program. I'm gonna go to a program that I'm gonna have fun at for 4 years, 4 to 5 years, play
Mhm.
football, and mostly party. That's a lot of the fucking that's a lot of the kids, the kids my age too. That's like they were like checklist was like, can I party here? Can I play football here? Can I have fun here? You know what everyone knows what fun means. Play football here and
Party.
party education. Education is like super last. But yeah, that's literally how it was. But that coach, though, for McBatch, like 8 years ago, he was just an obnoxious coach, and
Mhm.
but yeah, you rarely see them get fired unless they're doing a really bad job, just like York was for a couple years.
Yeah, it's not like a thing you see definitely as much as the NCAA, where just coaches are getting
Yeah, like
fired.
James Franklin.
Yeah, you get like LSU is paying Brian Kelly $54 million to sit at home.
Yeah,
Like,
it's ridiculous.
is there
I would
anything better?
being a football head coach in the States, college football head coach is the greatest gig you can have because if you are good enough in anywhere else you go and you win a couple games and you get that
Yeah.
extension and you suck, you get billions of dollars still.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing. There's only one thing better than being an active college football coach.
I'm getting fired.
That, yeah, being fired, literally. Being a fired college football coach. Because if you coach for a Power Five school, they will pay you money out of their back pocket. So they're like, dude, I'll pay you 60 million so you never come back on campus again.
And I hope one day I can become a college coach, be one of the best for 3 years, get that contract extension, and then be the absolute worst.
Yeah.
I'm set for life. But yeah, before we sign off, though, one game I want to talk about. I don't know. I just want to actually say light to it. I don't know if you have any information on this.
Hmm.
The Canadian Bowl, the Canadian Junior Football League, Saskatchewan Hilltops versus the Okanagan Sun on Sunday. That's gonna be a tremendous game, I think. And for again, Saskatchewan, man.
Yeah.
That town is going to be buzzing this weekend because the Hilltops are home. I'm pretty sure, right? I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
they're hosting. So that's gonna be any like information, any tidbits you got on that game because that's gonna be a tremendous game. And I think I got the Hilltops on that just because the city's gonna be purely buzzing, but the Sun are fantastic too.
I got Okanagan. I
Yeah,
don't have much info on either team, but I did see like a little chart breakdown post on Instagram where it broke down some of the statistical categories for both teams, and I just vaguely remember seeing like Okanagan has scored like a ton more points than Saskatoon has this year, and they've also given up less. And I've just um I don't really have enough information to make a truly educational like decision
yeah,
like an
yeah. You don't have to make an educational decision. Yeah, I just wonder if you had anything. It's the 117th All Canadian or not? Why do I keep on saying All Canadian Bowl? The Canadian Bowl.
117th Canadian Bowl and the 117th Yates Cup.
Yep.
Let's talk.
Boom! What a weekend for
Yep.
Canadian sports, for Canadian football. You got the divisional finals in the Canadian Football League. You got the Usports Conference Football Championships. Yates, Hardy, um, missing one more. The
Yates,
Loney,
Hardy, and the
the
Looney.
RESQ one, the All
Yeah.
Canadian Bowl 2 on Sunday, the CJFL Canadian Bowl National Championship on Sunday. What a weekend.
Yeah, what a weekend. We got great NFL, college
Got
football.
NFL, got
Well, yeah,
college
East
football.
Final this year, East Final in
Yep,
Hamilton.
yep.
You
The
got
all blocked out, the blocked out game.
Yeah, the blackout game. We just had a super entertaining trade. Your Cowboys,
Yeah.
Quinn Williams.
Quinn
What?
Williams, unreal, but man, it's not going to save the season. But next year, high hopes for that defensive line. Let's just see what
Mhm.
happens. Jerry Jones, for some reason, I don't even know. Jerry Jones is sleeping a lot, but then he wakes up from a nap and he goes, let's get Quinn Williams." His
Yeah,
dementia is going through the roof.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, great weekend for sports. Great. It's been a great October. Now it's going to be an even better November. Nick, thank you for coming on. We'll talk to you soon. Nick, any last words though?
Um, I really hope the picks that I made today turn out well. I hope I end up looking as smart as all of the work I put in to making my educational
Hey,
picks
you
and
did.
decisions
Don't
and
you
all that.
worry.
So yeah, other than that, it was a pleasure to come on. I look forward to the next time I'm on here with you and keep doing your thing. You're killing it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And then if you guys ever want to know, Nick Tazzeo, 10 out of 10 broadcaster in Hamilton, and he was just on the Hamilton Sportscast. I'll link some bunch of his stuff below. But Nick, thank you for coming on, brother. Appreciate it.
Always take care, brother.
Yeah, you too.